Good evening, everyone. So, as Aidan mentioned, my name is Niamh McCarthy. So, I am 21 years old from Carrigaline in Cork. So, I'm here to tell you about the journey that I've been on for the past few years. So, this time 3 years ago, I was a fairly everyday student. I was into my second year of college in University College Cork studying a science degree. When, out of the blue, my mother asked me to do a fairly mundane task, just of dropping off a letter to a solicitor called Frank Hannon in Cork City, which, you know, fair enough, whatever, mother, I'll do it for you. On the day, did my bit, handed over the letter, and Mr. Frank Hannon asked me, what condition have you got? And I'm just thinking, oh, you know, how dare he? How rude, you know, this man. And I think I just ignored him on the day, you know, whatever. Got past it, got back to the office, was telling mother about this man, like, I couldn't get over it really, but walked past it. But then I found out he actually has a son called Sean who suffers from achondroplasia, which is the most common form of dwarfism, which, as you can tell, there's something going on here. It's not achondroplasia, but it's something else. So, you know, fair enough, Frank. I'll give you that one. I got over that. So Frank then went on to tell my mother about the Paralympics and if I had any interest in it, which instantly, no, it's not something we'd ever followed. The Olympics or anything, it didn't really have any interest in it, didn't think I belonged either. So he basically told us that there was a talent search day organised in UCD by Paralympics Ireland when they were basically looking for fresh meat for the next Paralympic Games. Again, instantly I'm thinking, not really my thing, I don't think I'll bother. Now I did find out it was actually sponsored by Cadbury's, which, not gonna lie, might have been a deciding factor in me going up for the day. So, you know, we went up in the big bus, got our free chocolate every corner we could find, but like, oh, I haven't gotten any yet, I need more. And then in the big hall, we're meeting all these medalists from the games, none of whom I recognised, you know, their names didn't ring any bells, but, you know, I was touching their medals, oh, well done, you know, very good. And then we're asked to try out all the different sports. So the main one for me, I suppose, was when I was handed a discus, which didn't know what it was, had never seen one before, and was just told it to throw it at the wall, which did me a bit, thought it went okay, didn't really know. And then that was it, that was the end of the day. I didn't really put much thought into it. However, a few weeks later, I got an email from the head of athletics in Paralympics Ireland asking me to come up to Dublin again to get tested and classified. Again, didn't really know what this meant. So went up again with mother for the day. In the morning, I got classified, which basically means they kind of test what your disability is and make sure that you're competing against people with a similar disability. So I'm what's known as F41, which basically is for people of short stature. So we were then told to go away for lunch and come back in the afternoon for the testing. And I was told to have my warm-up program ready and finished to be going for 2:30, which, again, warm-up program, what? You know, we'd already planned to go to KFC for lunch, which we did, which, you know, it was good. And it was also followed by a short nap in the car because driving to Dublin's really tiring, you know, so a bit of a nap. My warm-up on the spot, did a few run around the car park, and that was my warm-up. I've developed it since, but that's what it was on the day anyway. On the day, we actually realised how serious this was. There had been 400 people who attended the talent search day, and 10 of those were chosen to come up to this testing and classification day, of which I was one. So it was now we kind of realised this isn't just a kind of day out. This might actually lead into something a lot bigger. So after the testing day, I was basically told, yeah, you seem like you have something in you, you have potential. So I was put onto the fast track program, which is basically for people who are brand new to their sport and they're trained up to as high a level as they can, really. So training started for me winter 2012. So my first competition season then would have been 2013. But obviously before competing, I had to learn how to actually throw the discus, which, you know, a bit of work involved and a lot of people that helped me along the way. What initially started me was a group called the Rebel Wheelers, which is a group for children of any ages really, and I think adults as well, for any type of disability, just to get involved in sport. So I went along to these, started doing group sessions, just kind of raising the fitness level a bit and learning how to throw the discus roughly where I should be throwing it and not backwards, which only happened twice. There was also other coaches, such as Dave Sweeney, who's the national throws coach in Ireland for discus. I met him a few times. Clearly a complete newbie, but you know, he taught me the ways. There's also the likes of Tom Commons, who is the national strength and conditioning coach, because throwing a discus, there's also a lot of gym work involved. There's a lot of strength conditioning, so I would have been up to Limerick every month or so to get a new program to develop my strength. So there was a lot of different aspects that were also involved in learning how to throw the disc. So as I said, the first competition season was in 2013. Of course, Irish Loch, first competition, it was raining very heavily. There was lots of mud everywhere. Bit bad, but one of the blind girls actually slipped on the mud, fell in the mud, which is terrible, but I did laugh a tiny bit. No, it was awful competition. I'm thinking, what have I got myself into? This is horrible. Why would I ever do this again? Squelching home, you know, it was not fun. But a few short weeks later, I was invited to a training camp in Gran Canaria for 2 weeks, all expenses paid, and I'm like, okay, I'll give it a go. I'll see if it goes better. And of course, you know, unreal, Gran Canaria in March, better than, typical Irish weather. So my first competition season was pretty much all in Ireland. It went fine, nothing fancy. I was really just getting the grips of it and all. My second competition season then would have been last year, when everything kind of changed really. I was invited to 2 international competitions, one of which was the Dwarf Sports Association in England, in Birmingham, which I got a few medals, but it was more about really meeting people in my classification as opposed to really trying to succeed in any way. But it was still, a bit of experience. And then I was also invited to a Grand Prix in Berlin, where, got to experience Germany, which was very cool. And luckily for me, I managed to finish the competition with a personal best, which I think was about over 2 meters of what I'd ever thrown before. So, great success really at my first international competition. Unfortunately, the intensity of all my training competitions and everything resulted in an injury, which is never something you think is going to happen to you, but it happened to me, and it was a shoulder injury, my throwing arm, I couldn't have had worse really. So I had to experience the whole physiotherapy side, paying for all of this and trying to get over the injury. I had to sit out for the next 3 months of competition, whereas this was a time when I was trying to qualify for some of the bigger competitions, getting what they call A standards, so you have to throw a certain distance. So, I'm injured, sitting down thinking, what am I going to do? But I eventually got over it, and my last competition would have been in Cork, where even with just a stand and throw as opposed to the full kind of turn and throw, I managed again to get a personal best. So it was a great end to a rough season really. But I suppose even though all of this was about learning to throw a discus, there was a lot of hurdles I had in the way. As I said, I originally started and I was in college doing my degree. Well, doing all this does cost money, as I mentioned, physio costs, traveling to competitions, things like this. The money doesn't come from nowhere. And I realised I didn't have time to continue my degree, so I had to give up college to actually start working, well, part-time, but still, there wasn't enough time to learn, train, and earn money. So I did give up my college degree. So I started working to fund everything. I also had to give up weekends, because training is also, it's not just Monday through Friday, it's every day, all day pretty much. So there was a lot of things that I had to sacrifice at the same time whilst doing this. And as I mentioned, physio costs and things like that, you have to fund it somehow. Luckily for me, all of the international comps and competitions and camps even abroad, they were funded for me by Paralympics Ireland. So, that was a bit of ease for me in that I didn't have to think, oh gosh, how do I get to Gran Canaria? And also, luckily I managed to get sponsorship in the form of gym membership with the Carrigaline Court Hotel in Carrigaline, which, as I said, gym is a big portion of what I do. So, that was one of the support programs I had. But I suppose when everything really changed for me was when I was selected to represent Ireland for the World Championships in Doha in Qatar last month. I really realised it was a kind of different competition to all the others, in that I couldn't just tell everyone, oh, I'm going to this competition. There was an official press release that was done by RTE at the start of October. So I went up for the day. There was professional photographs taken with myself and other team members, and interviews and everything. They interviewed me for about 5 minutes. They only used about 10 seconds. So I'm not 100% up to date on my public speaking yet, but they did get 10 seconds out of me. So I was on the news technically, but oh well. But I suppose this is the day that I realised this isn't really a hobby, this is starting to become a career, and I need to get involved in the business side of things. And there's a few parts of that, mostly which being the public speaking. But I started with my Twitter page, the woman who was interviewing me at RTE, she told me, oh, are you on Twitter? And I wasn't at the time. And she told me, you need to get on this. So I'm starting my Twitter page, and I need to work out how I'm going to brand myself, what my image is going to be. So what I didn't mention, even though I'm a discus thrower, I'm also a skydiver. When I originally started college, I joined the skydiving club, and that was my original passion for the first year anyway. So on my Twitter page, my main picture is me throwing my discus, but the cover picture is me also jumping out of a plane, because last time I checked, most of the Paralympic athletes, they're not really skydivers, they do other stuff. So I thought I'd try and keep that in there to kind of point out that there is other things. So Twitter was one of the things. I'm also working on a Facebook page and a website. But then also, so you have the likes of your journalist interviews, which I've had a few over the past few years, nothing massive, but once I was selected for the World Championships, everyone wanted to talk to me, and I needed to learn, how do I want to portray myself to everyone else? How do I tell my story to someone else to make sure that they tell it the way I want it to be told? So that was another thing that I really hadn't expected that I would have to learn on top of learning how to throw the discus. But I suppose the good thing with the whole Twitter is I was actually contacted by Dave Mack on Red FM to do an interview, which I did the day before I left for Qatar in my hotel room, pacing around the room, telling my dad to be quiet in the background. So, you know, I got this interview by using Twitter, just, you know, such a simple tool, but it actually got me this public, you know, role that, you know, no one knew about me, and all of a sudden I'm on the radio. And also because I had done that initial interview, once I won my medal in Qatar the day after, which they don't know, but you'll all know now, I'd just woken up for a nap, no pants on for the interview. So don't tell them that. You know, I've still not really taken it as serious, I suppose, as they'd expect me to. But I had my second interview, and, you know, it was great. But I've had all these journalist interviews, the radio and everything. You know, it's all stuff I never had expected that I would have to do, but I've had to learn, you know, how do I speak to someone, everything. And I suppose since I've come back, obviously, this is the first main thing, doing this big talk here, which I only tried to run away like twice today. So, you know, so it's something I've had to learn and try and get used to as much as I can. I mean, I'm starting the Run in the Dark tomorrow with Robert Heffernan. So, you know, bit different. It'll be interesting. It'll be nice to meet him, you know. Apparently I'm in the league kind of similar to him, but I still don't believe it myself. And there's also, I'm turning on the Christmas lights, I believe, in Carrigaline with the GA team. So that'll be another interesting one. And also the Brownies and the Girl Guides want to speak to me, apparently. So again, I have children still, but I have to come up and learn, how do I display myself? So, you know, another thing that I have to really get used to doing. So, you know, it's this story. 3 years ago, I didn't expect to see myself here. I'd never planned this. You know, infamous Frank Hannon, had he not opened his mouth that day, I might not be here now. You know, as it stands, I'm currently third in the world. As I said, I've come back with a bronze medal for Ireland, which I don't think anyone expected really, but, you know, I'm glad it worked out that way. But at the same time, it wasn't just about me learning how to throw a discus. There was a lot of other people involved, which without them I wouldn't be here today. So, you know, it isn't about me, it is the group of Niamh that helped me get here. Of course, Frank Hannon, you know, fair play. The parents, all my friends and everything. My coach, so the Rebel Wheelers group that I was telling you about earlier, my coach is completely unfunded. He just does it for the love of coaching. You know, he doesn't get paid to come see me, and I see him 2-3 times a week. Of course, Paralympics Ireland, they've given me a lot of support by getting me to these camps and competitions. And of course, Carrigaline Court Hotel, which was the only sponsorship I'd had up until recently, and all of the journalists, you know, so it really was an unexpected journey. I didn't ever plan this. It just happened out of the blue. But, you know, luckily I've been successful in what I've been doing. You know, I've come very far, much further than I'd ever expect. But I couldn't have done it without everyone else involved. You know, I've learned how to be good at discus, but I now have to learn how the whole business side of it all works, because it's not just about the competitions anymore. It's about, you know, everything that goes along with it, I suppose. So that's me.